Just kicking back. Oh, my buy is about to trigger, it looks like. I have a buy set for Ethereum this morning, and it just triggered. Average down a little bit more in Ethereum. I'm really working on building these crypto positions. I really feel like Ethereum and Bitcoin are coming up on a point where they're going to start moving higher. I feel like we're kind of consolidating in these areas, and I know a lot of people think they're going lower, and they could very well go lower, but I still think that these prices right now are a buy, guys. Like, if you're looking to hold it for a year or more, like, I really think these prices are a serious buy. So Lordstown Motors, like, I'm seeing one place that's saying that they're going to do a share offering at 2.3 million share or 2.3 million shares, something like that. I'm not seeing a report of that anywhere else. I think a lot of places maybe, you know how they're really trying to force it down. So I think a lot of people are going to wait to release those articles until tomorrow to try to push the share price down. If they do, I may buy some more. I don't have enough anymore to buy a full 100 shares, but I may buy some more if it drops on news of the offering. To me, offerings are good, okay, for growth stocks, because it allows them to put money back into the company, and Lordstown needs money, and they're sitting around waiting on the ATVM loan. I guarantee that's what's going on, is they're waiting to see if they're going to get this ATVM loan from the Department of Energy, and that's going to determine whether they take out some other kind of loan. But for now, if this news of a share offering is correct, then it's good news in my opinion. You know, a lot of people talk about share dilution in reference to share offerings, but for growth companies, if you expect for the company to be worth more, and you think that the money that they raise from the share offering is going to be a positive thing for the company, then the dilution is not really that important. All it really, as long as they're not like doubling the number of shares or something like that, share dilution really is good for the shareholders. So, I think that a lot of people look at offerings in the wrong light. And if you do a little bit of research on YouTube, go through and look at, what really share offerings really mean. And most of the information that you'll find talks about how they're really a positive thing. So I'm happy about it. I want to see them raise some money, whatever means they have to use. I want to see them raise some money, get that cash back up so they can continue on track. And I think just this small little offering they're doing is going to at least put them on track for this year. It's only like less than 2% of the total flow, so it's not very much dilution at all. I'm happy about the share offering if it turns out to be correct, and it may present an opportunity for me to average down a little more, and I'll be happy about that. Hyliion, a lot of you guys probably already know Hyliion's expanding their facilities to start being able to install more hybrid systems, more ERXs as they ramp up toward delivering ERXs to these mega carriers that they're in deals with. And I listened to the annual meeting. It was kind of short and not really, it wasn't really for us. It's an SEC requirement that they do those annual meetings. And they talked about the expansion a little bit, and overall, Hyliion is ramping up. I expect for us to see more press, more news as we move toward them delivering these ERXs, and I expect the share price to continue to trickle upward. The majority of my positions, I have a position in Hyliion in the M1 Finance where all the YouTube money goes. Then I have a position in Hyliion in my cash account. Those two are going to be longer term holds. It's a longer outlook on those. And then the shares that I have in my Roth IRA, everything in my Roth IRA is expendable. All right, when I get big bumps and I see big green numbers, I sell stuff in that Roth IRA. When I assess Lordstown, how much do I add politics into the equation? Blindsided with the Workhorse loss. They clearly had the better product, but lost to Oshkosh. Well, I don't really take politics per se so much into it, but I do think that the fact that I think that some things do play into a political light, such as Biden is pushing for American companies to be the beneficiaries of all this infrastructure and all this EV legislation, tax credits, and so forth. And I think that that's one thing that will work to their advantage. I also think that from a political perspective, okay, Lordstown, Ohio was really badly hurt when GM closed that plant. So I think there's political incentive there, not only locally, but also federally, to increase jobs and job creation and all that stuff. And I think that the Lordstown plant itself, you know, people and their dad have worked there and raised families by working in that plant. You know what I mean? And I think that plant is really important to the local economy there. And I think that is one thing that may also be that's going to play a factor, at least to a certain degree, in whether or not they get this government funding, the ATVM loan that they're up for. I think that at least part of the determination of whether or not they get that loan is going to have to do with the local economy there in Ohio and how many jobs that plant creates. So I do think that there is a political aspect to it. And like I've said, you know, I'm not making any claims with Lordstown Motors about like how they're going to fare over the next, say, 5 years. Okay, Ford's not releasing their truck for another year, and Lordstown's going to be the only truck available, the only EV truck available for a year. And so one of the things that you have to factor in is that there's a lot of tax credits and stuff that companies can get by buying electric vehicles, and simply the fact that they're going to be the only one that do you honestly think that these companies are going to wait a full year and not take advantage of these potential tax credits for that full year just so they can get a Ford? Like, I mean, they can still buy more trucks after the year's over, but I think that they are going to sell quite a few of the trucks. I think that most of the deposit-based pre-orders that they now have are probably going to come through. I think that there's a lot of companies there in the Ohio area and surrounding areas that will buy the truck just because it's supportive of the local economy. You know, I don't know. I think that they're going to be okay into the future. I don't think that they're going to like dominate the truck market or anything like that, but I do think that they're going to be okay. And I think that we're definitely going to have some positive news over the next, I don't know, between now and September, that we're definitely going to have some positive news that's going to hype the stock back up enough for me to make a buttload of money on it. Now, whether it stays at those levels, who knows? You know what I mean? Whether it goes real high and does real well, who knows? But, you know, I'm really looking to get out with a big profit. And I've got some in the longer term, on a longer term view as well, but not a whole lot. The high concentration in it that I have in my Roth, I'm looking for that pop to make some money. You know what I mean? And that's it. I'm not focused on 5 years out. I'm not even focused on 2 years out, you know. Workhorse, I've never been a huge fan of that business model. I don't know why. In the beginning, I really didn't like Workhorse because it was so dependent on the USPS thing. Now that that's no longer a factor, I mean, maybe they do something, you know, I don't know. I don't really know, but I've never been a huge fan of the Workhorse play. It's just not something that I think is like revolutionary or anything. And really, like, if you want to talk about Ford disrupting something, you know, a lot of like those delivery type vehicles are Fords. So Verge, I think that that's a possibility. Uh, I think that that's a possibility that they all make it. Now whether they make it and like I don't see them like dominating the field or anything like that. But I think that there's a good chance that all those make it. Nikola, like the thing about Nikola to me, okay, is that they're so dependent on hydrogen, and hydrogen is like a long way away, you know, before there's infrastructure and before the fuel is even cheap enough to be beneficial. I mean, and so like, what do they do between now and then? How do they survive the next 8 to 10 years before hydrogen really is a viable fuel source? Doesn't make any sense to me. Like, as Hyliion is the only one with a viable business model as far as like long haul trucking is concerned, and I've said that over and over in my videos about Hyliion. They are the only one that has a viable solution for long haul trucking. And you know, there's a lot of people who misunderstand trucking, and they say, well, there's a large percentage of trucks that aren't long haul trucks, and that is true, you know, and that's why I say that Tesla is going to succeed, because they're going to, you know, be viable in that short haul space. But Hyliion is the only one, and they're alone in the field of long haul trucking, and long haul trucking is a big part of trucking. I mean, like, where do you think the short haul truckers get all that stuff that they run around town with? You know what I mean? Where do you think that the Pepsi and Coca-Cola trucks that go to the stores and hump 12 packs all day, where do you think they get them 12 packs? They get them because we deliver them to their warehouse. You know what I mean? And so, you know, there's, I just, Hyliion is going to make it. Like, they're making the right moves. They're going to make it. And I think that the stuff that I hold long term in Hyliion is going to make me a bunch of money over the next few years. You know, my whole time horizon is only 4 or 5 years, you know, and really I'd like to do it in 2 to try to cash out and start a business. And at that point, I'll kind of be starting over with investing. But, you know, I think that just within that time frame, Hyliion can potentially make me a lot of money. And so, like I say, the Roth IRA is for short-term stuff, and so the Hyliion in there I will likely sell when I get a good bump. But the Hyliion in the cash account, you know, I got like 67 shares or something over there, and however much is percentage based in the M1 Finance. But yeah, some of it is meant to hold for, you know, until I'm ready to cash out and start a business. But the stuff in the Roth is probably going to end up getting sold. Let's see, what do we got here? Questions. What do I think about CCIV? I don't keep up with it really well, so I'm not aware of the latest news or whatever. But I'm not a fan of investing in that company at this stage. Like, I guess it's pulled back, and maybe it could be an investment right now. But like, they're a long way off. Like, and they've already kept pushing back. Like, they said they were going to make cars this year, then they said next year, and they don't have a factory that's ready to go. They don't, like, nobody's even driven the car. Like, they haven't delivered it anywhere for people to drive. You know, I'm not a fan. Okay, I'm a fan more of Lordstown Motors, because they're almost at the finish line. You know what I mean? Like, they are at the finish line, and all they need now is that little push to push them over the edge so that they can start making the vehicles. You know, but these more speculative plays that are not ready to make vehicles and are not as far along, like, I'm much more skeptical about those. And CCIV in general, because their car is going to be really expensive and they're making all of these claims about it. Like, I'm just unsure about it. Like, whenever something gets real hyped up, I get unsure about it. I like that too, Verge, and that's the same reason why I like OEG. And, you know, and Lordstown has become more and more of, you know, a lot of negative sentiment surrounding it, so it's not real hypey, you know. And OEG, it's not a hype stock. You don't see people make videos about it all the time and stuff like that, but yet when there's a news story, it gets really hyped up for a day or two, and that's what I like about the stocks that the stocks that I'm doing for short-term plays, is that I like to find ones that can make huge moves. And even though people are negative on Lordstown, you cannot deny the fact that even after bad news, like, it was $7 and it more than doubled in like 2 weeks. I mean, yes, it's come back down from there, but it makes these big moves when it just makes these big ass moves, and that's what I like, because I'm looking for short-term gains, you know what I mean? And right now it's still less than half of what it was a few months ago. So, it's like, I just want that big pop. We come back, to 18 or 20, and I'm out, and I made a bunch of money, and I expect it to go higher than that. So, but I don't want to stick around, and I don't know how long I'll stick around in it, to be honest. It depends on the types of news that come out and how the stock reacts, but I'm looking to make short-term profits. I don't trade crypto, real talk, but I am starting to invest in it right now. I've been buying GBTC Grayscale Bitcoin Trust and Grayscale Ethereum Trust in the Roth IRA, because that's the only thing I can buy in there. And then I've been building a position in the cash account over the last, I don't know what it's been, a few weeks. And I actually just spent the rest that I had and bought Ethereum again today. So I'm working on building positions in crypto. I think that right now is a really good time to start getting in. Even though it could potentially go lower, I think there's some serious catalysts for crypto over the next, say, 6 months, because like a lot of people are negative on the regulatory stuff that's happening right now and that's about to happen with crypto. But ultimately, I think that's going to be a really good thing, because what we want to see in these cryptos is we want to see big money start investing in it, corporations and stuff like that, and hedge funds start investing in it in however small proportions. Okay, that's what we want to see. And as it becomes more regulated, that is an attractive thing for corporations and big investors to get into it. They don't want it to be the Wild West. They want it to be somewhat regulated and make them feel more confident that it's not going to just go away or something. Once we start getting more regulations, and that shows the government their willingness to start adopting it. If they, it gives it validity when they look at it and they're happy enough with it to start regulating it and start just making considerations for it. And I think that the further we travel down that path, the more and more we will see bigger corporations and stuff start to put small amounts of money in it. And that's what we really need for it to really explode, is for corporations and hedge funds and stuff like that to start seeing it as a viable investment that they should be putting certain percentages of their money in. And I think that that's going to happen more and more. And I think just over the next year, I think there's going to be a lot of money to be made from these prices, from where we are now in crypto. Now, I wasn't investing in it when it was like up 1 billion% and, Bitcoin is at 60,000 and all that. Like, I'm not interested in buying it then. But now that the sentiment has faded a little bit and it's not so hypey and it's come down, and a lot of people are talking negatively about it, and it's not time yet and everything, now is, in my opinion, the time to start building a position in it. Be greedy when others are fearful. When things pull back and everybody gets scared of them, that's the time to buy if you've done the research and you really think it's going to do something. And that's where I am with Lordstown Motors. Everybody's scared to death of it, and the price dropped so much that, to me, that's the time to buy, because I've done a lot of research and I really do think that it is going to do something, even if it's just in the short term. And that's just where I am with it. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me this morning. Y'all throw me a super chat. Help me get that revenue up. I did a live stream on my other channel last night, And man, I made almost as much in super chats as I've made for the entire month on YouTube revenue over there. So that's really helpful. Last month I didn't do very many live streams, so the revenue was a lot smaller that I'll be getting on the 21st. But I did pull the money out of my t-shirts from the other channel, and I also took a payout from Patreon, and I have already deposited that into the M1 Finance account. I have not bought with it yet, but it's in there waiting. I'm waiting for a nice red day, nice day where a lot of those stocks look good to set the buy. I think there's like 150 over there right now for me to buy with. And this week, if I catch a day that looks favorable, then I'll set a buy and go ahead and buy with that 150. And then I can't remember exactly how much the YouTube revenue is going to be. That usually comes in on the 21st. And then we'll be looking for a time to buy with that portion as well. But the M1 Finance is doing really well. I mean, it's up over 17% right now. So yeah, I mean, it's doing really well. I think I picked some pretty good stocks to put in it, and ETFs. Any movement on CNG infrastructure out on the road? No, not really, Ed. It's still pretty much the same. I haven't seen anything change. But there's lots of it out here. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not at every truck stop, and it's pretty much only at Flying J truck stops. But there's quite a bit of Flying J's that have them. And they have the CLNE is the ticker symbol of the company that has those out there. It actually just went on a pretty big run. I got rid of it not too long ago, so I'm not holding it right now. But I really think that when Hyliion kicks it off, that's going to be good for CLNE. And I also think that they have a deal with like American Natural Gas, I think it is. And I think that we could look to see, like, when Hyliion actually starts to proliferate, we could start to see A&G move to try to get into some of the other truck stops. Because like I said, only Flying J has it right now. But they could definitely put it at TAs and Petros. They could definitely put it at some Loves are large enough. And they definitely could start thinking about putting it at some of these other brands like Road Ranger that aren't quite as popular. So I think that's a little ways off, though. Hyliion needs to get these ERXs delivered, and they need to get into that testing phase and get through that, because commercialization isn't going to start until sometime next year on the ERX. So I think we've still got quite a bit of time before it really starts to proliferate out into the trucking world. That doesn't mean that the stock price won't shoot up before that, but I think that in terms of them really being noticed and proliferated out on the road, we're a couple years away from that probably. Tony, I don't give out my other channel. I don't cross the streams. I don't give them this channel. I don't give you all that channel. It's a topic that you guys undoubtedly would not be interested in. I've been running that channel for over 10 years. It's about 11,000 subscribers, and yeah, it's a totally different topic. It's a very niche subject, and I prefer just not to cross the streams between the two channels. Pilot is invested in Hyliion? I had not heard that. I had not heard that at all. I'd like to, if you got a link, I'd like to see a link, or I'll have to remember to look that up. I was not aware that Pilot was invested in Hyliion. That's pretty cool. Oh, Berkshire Hathaway's buying Pilot, Flying J. Don't surprise me. And I gotta be honest, like, I like Love's truck stops, but Pilot, Flying J they are my favorite truck stops. They got the best food selection, like as far as in-store food selection. the number, they also allow you to reserve parking spots, but they don't go crazy with it like TA and Petro does. I like Pilot, Flying J. I like it. I like their rewards program and stuff. I don't particularly care for TA and Petro, although Petro and TA have restaurants, and I like that, so I do stop at them a lot. And also, they have a lot more reserved parking, so if I'm stopping at night, like I'm at a Petro right now, because I can purchase parking and I don't have to fight for a parking spot if I'm rolling in there, say, after 6 p.m. BN, what makes you want it more? Oh, and thank you for the super chat, Verge. I appreciate it, man. I forgot to mention that. I really appreciate any support you guys can offer. Y'all throw me a super chat. I mean, that all goes toward the retirement. That all goes into a separate account into the M1 Finance. And I'd like to see that get built up just as much as I can over the next year or so. Pilot uses A and G. No, it's CLN. Well, maybe Pilot. Flying J, all of those in Flying J, all of the truck fill stations for CNG are that Clean Energy Fuels Company. The ticker symbol is CLNE. Thank you, Real Talk. I appreciate it. Man, you guys are all on the AMC train. I just can't do it. And somebody, I think it was you that asked about it earlier. I just can't do it. Like I jumped in on it, and I said, I told myself I'm only going to lose a certain amount if I start to lose money, and I ended up losing $500-600 on it. And I do like the cause. Like I like that they're trying to squeeze these shorts out and stuff. But at the same time, like guys, that's a $5 stock. All right, I can't justify like risking. I wish I would have just held what I had in there and just held it. You know what I mean? But at this point, like, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. None of them. And if you got in early, like, and I kind of feel bad because some of the people that I know in actual real life or that I'm friends with on Facebook had asked me back when I was investing in Cinemark about AMC. And I was like, AMC's fixing to go bankrupt. No way. Do not touch AMC. But, you know, and one of the guys, like, he was asking me, like, right before all of that stuff started and AMC really started running. And now I kind of feel bad and wonder if he listened to my advice or if he actually made a bunch of money on it. I had one friend, though, who was invested in GameStop before it all started. And he made, like, $70,000 or something, $65,000 on GameStop when it all happened. Thanks for hanging out with me, y'all. My buy did trigger on Ethereum at 2380, I think it was. I buy it on Webull, and I don't really care for how I don't know how other companies do it, but I don't really like the mid price, how they show you the mid price between the ask and the bid. It kind of messes me up the first couple of buys that I made. I bought a lot higher than I thought I was buying. And it wasn't until I figured out what happened that I started to use limits. Which I normally use limits anyway. But, you know, I was unfamiliar when I first started buying crypto and Webull about that mid-price thing. And it kind of screwed me up. But I'm down below, on Ethereum, I'm down below a $2,500 cost basis, so I'm happy with that. And Bitcoin, I'm at a pretty good spot too. So I'm just continuing to add a little bit here, a little bit there, nibble at it. And, you know, I've got like, I don't know, about $650 worth in the Roth IRA through the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. And then in Ethereum, I've got like $250 or something. And then in the cash account, let me just look real quick. I'm not exactly sure of the numbers. 280 in Bitcoin and 140 in Ethereum in the cash account. So I'm just slowly building them up, and you know, I'm at a pretty good spot, I feel like, right now for the levels of my account and how much percentage wise I'd like to have in it. So at this point, I'm like waiting for a potential big dip. If that happens, I'll buy some more, you know, but other than that, I think I'm pretty much done building my positions for now. Yeah, real talk. I know a lot of people would rather have a wallet-based thing. I've got enough accounts already. I'm not trying to make a bunch more accounts, and so Webull works for me. I mean, I'm already there with the cash account, so it's just easy. I don't have to start another account and keep track of it. You know, I've got the Roth IRA and Fidelity, then I got the Webull cash account, and I've got the M1 Finance for all the YouTube stuff. So 3 accounts is plenty enough for me. Although I have kind of considered starting one with somebody else to put money in cryptocurrency for my child. He's 18, and I'm thinking about maybe starting to just put a little bit in there and just not tell him about it, and then, you know, 10 years from now I could be like, hey, here's a couple $100,000. You know what I mean? The type of things my family didn't do for me. How about them super chats, guys? Let's get that number up. Trying to get the revenue up so we have a good deposit next month for the M1 Finance. To the 20s? No, I don't think Bitcoin goes to the 20s. I'm not an expert. I'm not a financial advisor, but I don't think it goes to the 20s. I think that, you know, maybe 30, but I don't think it goes to the 20s. I really don't. Like, I think that the cat's out of the bag. You know, some larger corporations and stuff have already started to put a little bit of money in there. We're seeing regulation happens, which is only going to build confidence for big money interests. You know, the more it gets regulated and the more government gives it credence by looking at it and regulating it and stuff like that, I think that it only gains traction from here. Of course, real talk, big money is always trying to push the prices down of everything. That's why I keep saying that these articles, the people writing all these articles, the analysts, the talking heads, they are not on our side. Like, they make all the time, they try to shake us off so that they can get lower prices. Like, that's what they do. That's why sometimes I don't draw the parallel between me saying do your own research and don't listen to the fucking analysts. I don't draw that parallel, but that's kind of what I mean when I say do your own research. I'm like, do the research for yourself. Don't listen to what the analysts say, because these analysts, you know, they are looking at these stocks oftentimes from a different perspective than we're looking at them. They're looking at 10-year time horizons. They're looking at, will this company last forever? Whereas a lot of us are just looking, am I going to be able to make money over the next year? Like, they're not even thinking about it from the same perspective we are. And a lot of times, like, especially when it comes to like short reports and stuff like that, and you know, people who write articles that have an interest in the stock in one direction or the other, like, they're not on our team. They're trying to manipulate the stock price to try to get into a better position for themselves. Whether that means they want to push it up so that they can buy shorts when it's real high, or they want to push it down so that they can get a position long on the stock. You know, these money interests are not on our side. And, you know, the sheep, the vast majority of investors, they just listen to whatever the hedge funds say, whatever the analysts say, they go with it. And that's why we see these big fluctuations when news articles come out, because everybody's just scared. But the thing is, guys, if you do your own research and you build your own understanding of what's actually happening with that company, not based on articles, okay, then you're able to say, them motherfuckers are full of shit, or these motherfuckers are full of shit, because you've already got your own understanding of the company. And if you trust yourself, many times that can work out for you a lot better. And, you know, especially when you're looking at these growth stocks that we're all looking at, you know, like if you know, there's a lot of people have good and bad things to say about Jeremy, okay, financial education, but he's made a lot of money in the stock market, and he's done that by doing his own research. And he is also the same thing. You know, he does a bunch of research, he pays attention, he listens to the earnings calls, reads the documents and all that stuff, and then he trusts his own research and his instinct, and he doesn't let the analysts and the articles sway him in one direction or another. You know, that's what he does. That's what a lot of these people who make a lot of money in the stock market, that's what they do. They do their own research, they get a really solid understanding of a company, and then they tune out all the noise and they just trust their research. And that's what I'm trying to do. You know, I'm not saying that I'm some badass, or, you know, I've been doing this for, you know, just about a year, so I'm new at it. But I am a smart guy, and I'm doing the best I can to do that, to do my own research, build an understanding of the company, and try to not be swayed one way or the other by what the talking heads say. If anything, I use what the talking heads say as opportunities oftentimes to average down or to buy stocks. When they say some bad shit about a company, that pushes the stock price down, because all the sheep are like, bah! And whatever they say, when I've already got an understanding of the company, I'm like, no, you know, this company's going to do something. And so, you know, it gives you kind of an advantage, because the vast majority of investors, especially younger and newer investors, like, they're just going with the trends and the hype, and, you know, they're not really having a deep understanding of these companies. Yes, real talk. They absolutely consider us dumb money. My pleasure, real talk. I plan to have a great day. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Not sure what else to talk about. We're going to make it about an hour. I'm going to make it about an hour. What kind of truck am I running? I'm in the, there's a PACCAR logo. Yeah, I am in a Kenworth T680, Nick. It's a 2019. It's actually early 2020, but it's marked 2019. I'm a Kenworth guy. I like the Kenworths, and I'm not a big fan of the big nose trucks, simply for, you know, I don't like the way the sleepers are set up in most of them, and I really love this truck and how much storage I have. And our company installs factory refrigerators, so the refrigerator from the factory is in this truck, and most companies do not do that. You know, my company actually does a lot of things that a lot of companies don't do. So I like where I'm at. I like the equipment. I got this truck with like 4,000 miles on it. It's still under 225. It's about 202. I'm going to be due for a 202,000. I'm going to be due for a PM pretty soon. And they trade them in about 400,000. So I probably got another year. Probably got another year in this truck before I get a brand new one, which is fine with me. I haven't really had any problems out of the PACCAR. I like the new transmission that they've got. This new 12-speed. It has this thing called urge to move, which I like a lot, because the older automatic transmissions, you would have to feather the gas pedal to get it to move, like backing up to a dock or back in the truck. And a lot of times it would get to jumping like that. And this new urge to move, man, it's really cool. You just let off the accelerator and it pushes itself nice and slow. None of that jerking shit. I like them a lot. What got me interested in the EV investment world versus some other sector? Well, I'm not just invested in EV, first of all. I really dig solar, and I am very interested in helping the environment, and I'm very interested in things like green power and stuff like that. So I mean, it was just a natural progression. And then plus, when I first started researching before I started investing, which was about a year ago, that's what everybody was talking about, and I was watching them and seeing all these huge pops, and so I learned quite a bit about it, and that's really what pushed me in that direction. Was that when I first started investing, like, my brain was automatically going toward solar and clean energy and stuff like that, because all of my research suggested that over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, there's just almost no way that it doesn't 10x. And so that's what first drew me to kind of the clean energy type stocks. And then through that, I started to find a lot of stuff about EVs. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm a big EV investor. I just I'm trying to find out where the big money's going to be. You know what I mean? And that's where I think it is. And I also think solar, man. I'm in the N phase. I've got some TAN in the long-term account in the M1 Finance. I really think that solar is going to really take off. Like right now, things are kind of focused on EVs and focused on infrastructure. And I think that it's only a matter of time before solar gets more play in the media and in regulate and government funding and stuff like that. I think that is coming more, and that solar is going to take off more toward the end of the year. And OEG also is a big play in solar. That's one of their main divisions. That's what it does, is construction and engineering and stuff like that for big solar farms. And so, and then 5G as well. It's just that a lot of the 5G stocks are very tech related, and I'm not big really on, because we've had such big run-ups in tech. Like, if you pay attention to my strategies, you'll know that when things are really up and hyped up and going up, like, that's not when I like to buy them. That's just like, I'm fearful when others are greedy, when everybody's like, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. I'm like, nah, no thank you. You know what I mean? But when everybody's like, oh, Bitcoin's going to 20,000 and all that, yep, time to buy. You know what I mean? When everybody's selling, I don't let them shake me off. I wait. I've always done that since I first started investing. I put stuff in my watch list. I watch it for a long period of time. Before I put any money in it, I watch it and I try to learn how it behaves, what ranges it trades in. I go back and I look back previous on longer charts and see how it behaved. And then I watch it for a month or so and see how it behaves. And then I start thinking about making decisions about what is low and what is high and where would I like to buy it. And then a lot of times when I think of where it's low, I try to wait for a day when it dips below that before I buy it. And that's just how I've always looked at it. I try to be patient on the buys. I'm not always successful at it, but I try to be really patient about where I buy a stock. I'm not always perfect at it. Sometimes I get a little FOMO myself, but I try not to, and I try really hard to discipline myself on the buy. And I think that personally, I think that's the most important part. If if you're looking for a swing trade and you're seeing a stock and it's trading in a certain range, you know, sometimes it goes up a little higher, sometimes it goes down a little lower. It's trading in this certain range for a couple months. Then I sit there and I wait until it drops down below the bottom side of that range before I buy it. And then I hold it until it comes back up to that normal range and try to buy it at the top of that. I mean, sell it at the top of that. And I know it's a simplification, but, you know, that's just the strategy that I've done. It's been, you know, more or less successful for me in the past. It hasn't been until the markets really started acting weird or differently, not necessarily weird, that I've come down some off the highs that I was at. But I'm still up. And that's really the important thing. I'm still up like 25%, even when I've got stuff in the red. And that to me is a product of me taking profits in swing trading. Like, every time you actually realize those profits and then start playing with it some more, and then take profits, you know, and start playing with it some more, then it bumps you up to these levels, these little stair steps like I've talked about over and over, so that then when what happened in February happened, you know, yes, I did dip down totally into the red there for a minute, but, you know, it wasn't for very long. And the only reason I kept my head above water the way I did was because of all that time that I spent, like, taking profits and stair stepping up, because by the time we got to the point where the market started pulling back, I was already up so high that I had to lose a whole lot to get down into the red. So, I mean, and then once it's just come back up like halfway, not even really halfway yet that it's come back up, I'm already back up 25%. So now I'm just at the point where, like I've said before, I'm just kind of waiting on us to come up to that next level, and then I'm going to think about selling. Where's them super chats at? You know, we're all about making some money over here. Someone that's new to the market, how do I find something with dividends for long term? Is it actually important to get the dividend, or is that for low return investors? Andrew, I'm not big on dividend stocks. Like, I think of them as savings accounts. Like, if you do the math, you have to put so much money into a dividend stock to get enough dividends to live on when you're old, that, like, I'm just not, for me, I'm not interested in that. Like, I don't know how old you are, but if you're young and you start getting into these dividend stocks and you're looking at a really long time horizon, like, over a long time horizon, it can be a really good thing. You know what I mean? But for somebody like me who's trying to do something the next 2 to 4 years, like, dividend stocks are not for me. Like, in the beginning, I had bought some AT&T, and I had tried to think about some dividend stocks, but then they just kind of stay steady and do the same thing, and you never make any money on them. You know, I mean, you get a little bit of dividends, but with somebody who's only got in the thousands to invest, like, those dividends are nothing. Like, they're nothing. I mean, in my opinion, you're better off just going into S&P 500 funds. But if you've got a lot of money to throw at it, and you're throwing a lot of money at a stock with, say, a 5-6% dividend, and you can get up to those levels, then yeah, you can live off those dividends when you get older, you know. But I just, like, I'm not a fan of it personally. I would kind of say it's for low return investors, and because, like, if you're able to dump a whole bunch of money in, you don't need a very big percentage return to do well, you know what I mean? But for people like me, like, who's got like $12,000 total in the market, like, that's nothing. Like, that is nothing. And so I'm better off personally trying to get those 20 and 30% returns plus than I am trying to wait out dividend stocks. I'm just not, it's not something that interests me. Hope that makes sense. And I know there's a lot of people who are real into dividend stocks, you know, but I think that a lot of those people, if they've really done the math, then they must have a lot of money to dump into it, or they have a long time horizon that they're able to just dump and dump and dump. And if you can do that, you know, there's something to be said for it. But I just think there's a lot more money in, you know, finding the right growth stocks and stuff. I think there's a lot more money in that personally, even if you have a bunch of money to dump in. You know, it's just, because to me it's a percentage game, guys. It's a percentage game. 30% is 30%. If 30% of $1,000 is $300, 30% of $100,000 is $30,000. It's just a percentage game. You know, those of us who have less money still want to get a big percentage. But the thing is, if you have $1 million in the stock market, 6% is quite a bit of money. You know what I mean? That's a bunch of money. But for somebody like me with 10,000 in, 6% is nothing. You know. Like we're starting to die down a little bit, guys. Where's some super chats? $4? Come on, I did an hour super chat on my other channel last night and made $46. You guys are investors. Y'all got more money than my other channel. Ain't no reason you can't give me a little bit of support. Come on now. Don't you want to see the M1 finance grow? Don't you want to see me like be able to build some kind of retirement? Running out of questions to answer here and stuff. Looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow in the market, guys. Andrew, I can't speculate on that. You got to do your own research, you know. What's going to be the next Tesla? I mean, everybody wants to know that. I want to know that. You know what I mean? What's going to be the next Bitcoin? Bitcoin is way low right now. Like, you know, Ethereum and Bitcoin are low. They're in half almost right now. I mean, to me, it's a buy. That's why I've started buying them. But nobody knows what the next Tesla is going to be. Okay, like there's one out there right now. There's a stock that if you invest in it right now, you'll 100x your money in a year. But nobody knows what that is. When does Hyliion get bought out? I don't know that they do. I don't know that they do, to be honest. Like, would you? Like, if it becomes successful like we all think it is, and starts to proliferate out into the long haul space, like, would you sell? I probably wouldn't. But if somebody were to buy them, I think that it would be one of the engine manufacturers like Cummins or Detroit or PACCAR. I think that if they were to get bought out, it would probably be by one of those companies, one of the companies that currently supplies the engines to Kenworth and Peterbilt, etc. But I think personally, I think it's a more likely outcome that Hyliion becomes another supplier for the OEMs, and then at that point you would be able to get a Cummins or a Hyliion, or an ERX when you buy your truck from the manufacturer. I think that's a much more likely outcome personally. And something interesting is that I think it was Cummins, this was a while back that I read this, they actually tested out a system that was basically the same thing as the ERX, like a long time ago, like in 8 years ago or something. They tested out a system and revealed it at this show and stuff that used a natural gas generator to charge batteries, but it was kind of looked at, I think it was actually a natural gas truck that had batteries. It was a different system, but it was very similar to the ERX system, and I was At first I was like, oh wait, is Cummins doing this? But then they didn't. I never saw anything else about it. Really interesting though. It was interesting to me. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate the super chat, man. That helps out a lot. Every little bit. Highly on for the win. You guys, come on now with the super chats. Help me out before we end. Any pretty lady truckers? Sure, there's pretty lady truckers. Don't none of them care nothing about me, but they're out there for sure. But they out here just like I'm out here. They out here to make money. They ain't out here to make friends. I ain't out here to make friends. Thanks, Ed. $1.99. Hell yeah, man. I appreciate it. Now we're getting somewhere, guys. Almost $11 in super chats. I appreciate the support for real. All right. I know it don't seem like very much, but a couple of these in a month, you make $20 or so, and it really pushes that YouTube revenue up quite a bit. And that's what it's all about. It's getting more money in that M1 finance. It's up over 17% right now, and I mean, just in a couple of months worth of deposits, we're up over $800 after the gains. And it's I'm kind of surprised at how quickly it's already pushing $1,000. We'll be up over $1,000 after this month's deposits. So it's doing a lot of good, and I do want to do t-shirts, and I purchased some art. Somebody on my other channel that's a patron and stuff, he's an artist, he does tattoos, and we're actually about to talk about potentially him helping me out with some t-shirt art for this channel. But barring that, when I get some time, I'm going to sit down and start working on some stuff. I bought a bunch of images of trucks, scaling vector images of trucks, to try to start working on some artwork for the t-shirts. It may take a little bit. You tried to rehearse for a gig this week and all the spaces were booked. I'm telling you, like, didn't you say you were in Austin or something? But yeah, I mean, at least where I'm at, they are all the time booked. I mean, and we're talking about monthly rentals, not nightly rentals. We're talking about monthly rentals, and the jam rooms are constantly booked. Like, there's a waiting list everywhere you go to try to rent a jam room. It's a good business to get into. I'll tell you what the problem is. What the hard part is trying to keep drugs out of it, because there's just every jam room you go to just smells like weed down every corridor, and that could be a potential pitfall. But at the same time, you've got some cushion, because these guys are renting their place. It's not like, I mean, it's like if you rent an apartment and somebody does a bunch of stupid shit in that apartment, does the apartment get in trouble for it, or do they just get in trouble for it? I mean, I guess it's all about how you think about it. Correct, Christopher. What the emission systems do now, okay, is they basically pump all of the emissions or all the carbon back into the engine, so it fucks up the engine. Now, in the beginning with the emission system, it was a lot worse, and they fucked the engines up a lot worse. They've gotten better at it, but it still, like, just pumps all that shit right back into the engine. And what the problem is that it cuts down the longevity of the engine. Like an older engine, you could get 1,000,000 miles off of it before you had to rebuild it. Nowadays, you're looking 500,000-600,000 miles, and it was even less than that when the emission systems first started, before you got to start thinking about doing top-end rebuilds on these engines. And also, the emission systems themselves, even beyond what they do to the engine, the emission systems themselves have a lot of cantankerous components that fail and that are very expensive to replace, like the DEF canister, the canister that kind of scrubs the emissions. those get all fucked up and you have to have them baked or replaced, and that shit's expensive, and the sensors on that whole system. And yes, the ERX system gets rid of that because you're not running diesel fuel and you don't have diesel exhaust, so you get away from that, and it's basically just an electric vehicle with a generator. We have a generator on, I mean, I have an electric one, but most trucks have a generator called an APU that runs off of the diesel. And what it does is when the truck is shut off, it allows you to have air conditioning and stuff like that. And that's kind of similar to what the whole engine of the ERX is. I'm sure it's more powerful to charge the batteries than what we have. But it also, you don't have to spend the money to have an APU put on the truck because it runs off of the current system. So there's just a lot of advantages, and you know, Hyliion is going to do well. Like I have no doubt that Hyliion is going to do really well. It's just not, like somebody mentioned, it's not a hype stock, and it's but the fundamentals are going to be there, you know, and they're in a niche that no one else is serving with the long haul trucking, you know, thing. And with this council and these people that they're delivering these ERX models to next in September, we're talking about big ass trucking companies, guys. Like Schneider and Werner are big trucking companies. Like they are big long haul trucking companies. And once they get that in there, and they're also, Werner is very willing to adopt these technologies. They were the very first one to adopt electronic logs. Like they've shown they've shown a propensity to be the first to adopt technologies. And Schneider, they were one of the main contributors to the glider market, to just buying all these gliders to escape the emission systems. And so they may be not so much with the technology and wanting to be green and all that stuff, but they definitely really want to get away from the emission system, and this is going to allow them to do that. So once they prove that these trucks work, I expect big orders from both of those companies. And there's a bunch of other companies as well, but just as a long haul trucker, Schneider and Werner are the two that I'm most familiar with, that I see every day on the road. They're out here, and I'm telling you, just those two companies, if just those two companies make big orders, it's going to start to proliferate. That's going to start the chain reaction, you know. And that's what I think is going to happen over the next year or two. Thanks, Ed. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate the little super chat, too. Guys, I'm fixing to end it, so y'all throw me a super chat. I'm going to play us out with one of my songs. Give me a minute here to pull one up, and there'll probably be an ad associated with it and all that stuff. But I'm going to play us out with one of my songs, and I hope you guys will tip your musician with a super chat. Help us build up that M1 Finance account. Let's see. What song are we going to play? Wait, what happened? I'm looking here. Alright, we're going to do this one. Alright, I'm going to play one tune here on the way out. I appreciate you guys' support. I appreciate you watching. Throw me a super chat while we listen to this song. Help me get that number up at the top a little bit, so we can get this retirement going, get that M1 Finance built up. This is called Blood Moon.
Wait.
Did this song
away,
about...
You need to hear this.
Oh, I don't know what was it, about a year ago.
Across the country are moving fast to enact...
Enjoy. Tip your musician. For 20 years ago, I was always ducking and diving. Between a rock and a long hot spot, I could have had no shucking and diving. Down at the crossroads, come a woman in a scarlet dress. She said, sign here, Mr. Guitar Man, and you can paint this city red. Got the blood moon rising. gas, we'll keep on riding. 'Cause the deal's been done since long ago. Was born 7 years ago. I went down on a double or nothing. Chasing gas like a big bad wolf. I got tired of huffing and puffing. Down at the crossroad, come a woman with the hair of red. She said, "Excuse me, Mr. Guitar Man, but your song's stuck in my head." Got the blood flow rising over the crossroad. Step on the gas, we'll keep on riding. 'Cause my deal's been done since long ago. Got the blood flow rising over the crossroad. Step on the gas, we'll keep on riding. 'Cause my deal's been done since long ago. Thanks for watching.